I'm going to talk to you today about changing your volume pot on a guitar, bass or lap steel guitar. Unfortunately, mine have become crackly. They're 5 to 10 years old and they need a change. Now, one option is to use a switch cleaner, which is commonly used in the industry for cleaning anything electrical. Products like Servasol are the common switch cleaning and lubricant things. But for the sake of £2 each for a new pot, I'm just going to replace my pot. I found a company online called Axe Tech, and they make pots, loads of different pots, and they're only £2 each, and they only took 48 hours to arrive by post. So I thought that's fantastic. So I bought a selection of 500s and 200 ohms, and they're the 6mm diameter stems, because that's standard in scratch plates. If your pot comes through the wood, you'll more than likely find that it's got a 10mm stem, so check that before changing your pot as well. I'm going to take the strings off the Bluey and replace the pot. So basically I would have given the Bluey a full service. I can't wait. I'm going to take the strings off and then I can unscrew the scratch plate and actually remove the old pot. And I've plugged in the soldering iron so it can heat up, so it's all ready to go once I've got the strings off. And of course I'm using a string winder because, as I've said before, a string winder is an absolutely essential bit of equipment and just speeds up string changing massively. And finally the E. Fantastic. There you go, that's all the strings off now. Okay, so I've just given it a bit of a clean up with a bit of soap and soft water. She's getting quite tatty actually. So that's got the majority of the dirt and grime off. Now what I'm going to do is unscrew the screws in the plate here. There's 9 screws I've got to take out. There's the first. And I've never unscrewed these, so this should be quite stiff. That's really important as well when you work on guitars, is to have the right tools, because there's always a little screw or a small Allen key that you need to adjust. So Allen keys, files and screwdrivers, £5 for a small set each is money well spent. It should just pull away now. There we go. And I've never actually seen inside here. Well, there doesn't seem to be a lot of room to pick the scratch plate up. It's very tight, the wires are quite short. So what I'm going to do is just take the knobs off and then unscrew the pots. And all you need to do is just get the pliers on there and remove the nut. The first thing I really need to do is clean up all the grime. I'll probably get the hoover out. Look, there you go, there's the pots. Everything looking very dirty and horrible underneath. So the first thing I'm going to do is a bit of a clean up. Well, that's a lot better now, that's a lot cleaner, have a look. So the volume pot is this first one here. You just got to unsolder the wires and resolder them to where they were. So my advice is that you just take a drawing of the plan of the wiring. So I've made a quick diagram of the position of the wires. Obviously there's 3 terminals on the pot, so I've written them down, which wire's going on to which, to help me with the wiring when I disconnect the wires. There are 2 types of pots, log or lin. Now the difference between log or lin is the actual slope on the volume curve. You find with a log, they're better for volume controls because it's perfectly incremented. If you use a lin, there'll be loads of volume change from 10 to 8 and then nothing from 8 to 0. So when it comes to volumes, use log. There are 2 commonly used values on most guitars, which are 500k ohm and 250k ohm. So 500k pots are more commonly used with humbuckers because they put less load on the pickups, so it makes them sound brighter. Whereas the 250k ohms are more commonly used with single coil pickups, with Strats and other single coil pickups. To check the pot that's in there, if you open up your guitar and look on the back of your volume knob, there'll be a value written, so it'll probably be somewhere between 500 and 250 ohm. My advice is really replace it with the same valued pot and then you won't have any problems. It'll sound exactly the same as it did. The earth wires are actually attached onto the back of the pot. So the first thing I would probably do is just to put some solder on the back of the pot, because obviously you need the earth to stick. As I tin the back of the pot, I'm just going to tin the terminals as well first before I start soldering. So I'm going to use a 250 ohm log pot. So I'm going to start by taking off the blue wire off the back of the earth of the pot. Next to take off is the white wire from terminal 3. Just touch it on the solder and it comes off. I'm going to unsolder the white wire's earth from terminal 3 and from the back of the pot. Then unsolder the red and black wires from terminal 2. Now we can attach the new pot. So let's start with the white wire on terminal 1. And then the white wire's earth goes onto terminal 3, and also it links onto the back of the pot as earth. And the red earth solders onto the back of the pot. We've got the red and the black, so they're both going onto terminal 2 of the new pot. And finally, the blue wire. Let's just put this bluey on. So that's the pot finished, as you can see. The wiring's all sorted. Let's start screwing them back in. So obviously the pots have a nut and washer. I'm going to use the new nut and washer rather than use the old ones. So there's the volume. Put the washer on and then screw the nut on. It's as easy as that. So once I've got the nuts on, I can position the pots exactly where I want them. I've just tried to put the nut on a few times and I've got a feeling the thread's a bit dirty. So I've got a little wire brush and I'm just going to give the thread on the pot a bit of a clean because the nut's being a pig. Yeah, I think that's helped. Yeah, it was just a bit of grime on the thread. This pot here could do with turning a bit. Well, that's okay if it faces there. So I'm going to tighten that one up. That's perfect. And let's give that volume pot a final tighten. So one last check, just to check all the wires are on still. Yep, we look to be good. When you're putting it back in, just make sure that the wires aren't trapped underneath. That's looking really good. Yeah, all the holes are lined up and that's ready to go back on. And there you go, that's the pot done. So I can put the screws back in and put some strings on now. Great. Just start putting them back. A bit offline at the moment, but it'll line up as I put the screws in. So, all that feels, suits you, sir. That's smooth as silk. That feels great. Okay, just give them a final tighten up. One more screw, and we are there. So it's a relatively easy process, because it is a bit of a hustle to change your pot. You've got to really wait until you've got all the strings off, until you're doing the full service, really. Like I say, I've done the nut, the string, changing the pot all in one hit. So that's all the screws back on. Let's put the volume pots back on. And there's my tone control. Both back on and lined up. Yes, happy days. I'm absolutely stoked. So let's stick some heavy fat strings on. Let's get that 74 blazing. So I've got a standard pack of XL 12 thou to 60s. They're quite heavy. In fact, they're the extra heavy gauge. They're 12 to 60s. But what I'm going to do, I've got a 74 for my E string, which is like a bloody bass string. It is absolutely colossal. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the 60 as my A, the 46 as my D, the 34 as my G. So basically, I'm going to just throw away the 12 and put the 74 instead as the E. Because it's a short scale neck, you can get away with fatter strings. So as you can see, I've just put the massive 74 on. It's colossal. I had a job even fitting it through the whole of the head. I had to get a file and smooth it. I'm just putting on the 46, which is my D. But I really like to have heavy strings. It makes so much difference. And the purple is the 16. But this is going to become my thin E. A 16. Very thin. Okay, so let's put that in. Fantastic. That's all the strings on now. So there's the new pot, the fat strings, my new nut. We're fully ready to go. And you think you can't wait to hear it. I'm absolutely itching to hear it.
Well, it's sounding good to me. The bass is fantastic.
I thought I'd show you how I got the guitar sounds. I basically recorded it in stereo with 2 different amps. There's the first amp, which is a Park, and I've used the Sennheiser mic. I've close mic'd it. Look, I've got quite a bit of gain on there. I've got a bit of spring reverb on there. And then my second channel, I've got an AKG bass drum mic, a D112. But as I say, if you use them on small amps, it sort of makes up for the bottom end that you don't have. Makes it sound more like a 4x12. And my typical amp setting is the Brit Combo, which is the Vox setting, bit of gain, and as you can see there's a bit of verb. I've come out of the Lapsteel into the wah pedal, and I've actually got an old patch bay link here which I use as a splitter. So I come out of the wah pedal and the guitar in mono, and I can split it into 2 channels and go into the amps. So it sounds cool, doesn't it? And as I say, I was so chuffed with the way it's turned out. It's sounding the best it's ever sounded. Can't be bad. So I hope that's been useful for you. Changing the volume pot, obviously making the nut, putting the new fat strings on, it's sounding colossal. So I hope that's been of use to you. Nearly out. See you later.